Well, hello everyone. How are you today? My name is Angela, middle initial K, last name Durden, and this is the Constrained View. We have a very interesting person. If you're on Substack, you may already know her. She is a fellow Substacker, and I found her quite interesting and wonderful writer in her columns. So you may want to take a look and subscribe to her. But her name is Susan Daniels, and let me read to you a little introduction about her. It's in her book. It says about the author. Susan Daniels was born on a Wednesday, a child full of woe, but she would not let woe control her life. While raising her 7 children as a single parent, she managed to hold jobs, earn 2 degrees, and become certified as a paralegal. She has now worked for more than 30 years as a private investigator licensed in the state of Ohio. The most important investigation she ever did was to uncover Barack Obama's use of a phony Connecticut Social Security number. She attempted to have him removed from the 2012 ballot in Ohio because he was not a legitimate candidate. She soon learned that everyone who already knew was willing to hide the truth. So we are going to introduce to you Susan Daniels. Hello, Susan. How are you today?
I'm good, Angela. Thank you. How are you?
Just fine. This is your book. That's when you were a bit younger, wasn't it? How old were you in that picture?
50 years ago. Yeah, it's a 50-year-old picture.
Oh my gosh! Well, it's a cute one. I could tell the hairstyle was from.
Oh yeah, and the big phony eyelashes too.
Yeah. Well, they're back with the phony eyelashes
oh
now.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Oh, bigger than anybody ever tried to do before.
Well, now they look like caterpillars now. They're not even believable.
I know, and frankly, I'm getting sick and tired of seeing them because everybody. Have you noticed that on the news, everybody's hair's got this style to it, and the eyelashes are huge, and everything's super defined, and I'm so tired of seeing. I mean, I know the camera may handle it well.
Yeah.
And you definitely don't want to make anybody puke by how you look, but at the same time, where's the humanity in all of this? And I don't care if it's a conservative or non-conservative, like Democrat or Marxist. I don't care. I'm sick of it.
I just hate
I want to see real people and real emotion.
Yep.
But I wanted to kind of sort of say something about this. At the end of your book, you say the Obama pyramid to smugness, his presidential library. I guess you know what's going on with it now, don't you?
Well, I would imagine that all work is probably stopped on it.
Yeah, DEI has destroyed it. All these people are complaining, they're not getting paid.
Oh yeah, and they ran out of money.
I know.
Well, the original price was going to be $3 million, and then it jumped to $530 million. Now it's $830 million.
Yeah, well, I believe Trump has, if he hasn't already, I believe he has pulled the plug on that because there's fake money going into it.
Well, so in the Substack article I wrote, I said I hope that they leave it like half built like it is, to always remind us of what a horrible presidency he had.
It was really horrible. It was really horrible. My editor, Tom Whitfield, when Obama was coming up for his second term, when Obama was getting sworn in on his first term, that first time in 2009, I was being attacked by dogs and they were trying to kill me. So I don't remember much about his swearing in. But I managed to save myself long enough that 2 teenage boys saw what was happening and came in, started beating the dogs away from me, and we all ran inside my house. I know that's the only reason I remember his first signing in, is because while he was doing this, I was one of my shoes, I was beating dogs in the head and backing up and
Oh
trying
my
to get in my
God.
house, and they dragged me to the ground. And if I hadn't had loose clothes on,
Yeah.
I would have been dead. But I had
That's
stretchy clothes on,
terrible.
and they couldn't believe I was fighting back. But anyway, his second time, by this time I knew my editor. I had now had him, and he asked me. He said, "Do you think he's going to get elected a second time?" I said, "Yeah, oh yeah, he's going to get elected a second time," even though everybody knew that he wasn't a good guy.
Oh yeah.
He said,
And
why do you think he's going to be elected? I said, because they've got to prove they're not racist. Everybody has to do that.
well,
And I think that's what
they
it
had the
was.
rigging down already too.
Well, now this is true too, but I don't even know that he would have needed a whole bunch of that. Still,
Oh yeah.
he's
Oh yeah.
not been a good president. And haven't you noticed that? I know he's aged. I know time has passed, but there is no life in his eyes. He knows he's done for. Don't you feel like that?
Well, if you look at a picture of him from 2016 to today, he looks terrible. And I actually think I think he's doing drugs again. That's what it looks like to me.
You know, he could be. He could be.
Makes the
He
most sense.
it does.
But
I I
he wrote that I killed Obama. Uh, I mean Bin Laden back in that was his battle cry. That's how he got reelected. He wrote that all the way back in, and that whole thing was a lie because Bin Laden had been dead since 2001,
oh man.
and people knew it. But with the Bush administration needed a boogeyman, and that's why Rumsfeld kept saying, "Well, we have to find him. We have to find him." Well, I uncovered through a French newspaper that he had died on December 16, 2001 in the Toroboro Mountains.
Mm.
And I had a copy of the death notice and I sent it off to a company in Florida that transcribed it for me. And it was word for word what was in the French newspaper that
Mm.
he was dead, and they knew he was dead
Man, you know, it just shows you how deep the rot goes
all the way.
all the way, and it also explains why uh, Trump, as soon as he said came down that escalator and said 1, 2, 3, this is what I'm gonna do if I'm elected. Uh, the gloves were off, and they tried everything in their power to destroy him, including assassination attempts. This time, there may have been others that we're never going to find out about, but
Right.
it shows you just how deep. And now with Elon Musk doing his thing with Doge, everybody thinks he's trying to be president. You know, oh, it's the
No,
spin.
he's
They know
not.
he's not. They know he's not. But they're trying to sway the low information voter. Is what they're
Yep.
trying to
And
do.
that's half the country.
You know, oh my gosh, oh
Isn't
my
it
gosh.
scary? It's half the country is ignorant about what is really going on in the country.
I know
It's scary. It is scary
it
because
is.
they'll fight tooth and claw, and all they can say is Trump is bad. And you say, well, give me an example, and they can't.
Yeah, I know. And what they do come up with is just a bunch of blah blah blah. You
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Did you see the Brett Baer interview where
I
it had the
did. I was just going to
whole?
ask if you saw that. That was fabulous.
It was fabulous to see these. They are captains of industry. In
And so classy and so low key, all of them.
yes, yes,
I thought that was one of the best interviews I've seen.
yeah. Brett Baer. You know, I don't like him or not like him. I've
It-
never really paid a lot of attention to him just because I just didn't. But this interview showed how good Brett Baer is
yep.
in doing his interview. So I'm going to have to pay a bit more attention to him from now on. But what I really liked that they can't say that. Now, I'm sure those guys were happy to let Elon be the face of everything because that just kept them able to focus on their jobs. But when they
Right.
started attacking all the Tesla dealerships, Tesla owners, or Tesla cars, I should say, um, that were owned by other people, and they didn't care who they were owned by, suddenly it became imperative to let everybody know that this was not just an Elon Musk going around with some young fellas going, "Woo, we're having fun," you know. No,
Right.
some serious people who have quit their jobs, huge, high-paying jobs,
Oh,
taking
yeah.
leaves of absence
And
to
working for
help him on
free.
this.
Yeah.
I
And
know,
working for nothing.
I know, I
And
know.
yeah, and it's interesting. You make a very good point, because during that interview, you could see that they all deferred to Elon Musk. Every time he started to say something, they would all stop if they were saying something.
Hmm.
It was a wonderful interview. I sent the link out to all my friends, and I think I even put on Substack that people should go listen to it. Yeah,
Hmm.
I was like you about Brett Barr. I had really no opinion, but he was fabulous because he did not interrupt when anybody was talking. He just let them go.
And not only that, but when he asked a question and it started to be answered, but the answer was truly something else, and they switched gears. He didn't try to go, uh, I want you to answer this question exactly as asked, because,
Right, right, right.
like a lot of these other
Like
people are doing.
Charlie Brown. Yep.
Oh my gosh, somebody's got to take that and put it with some of these interviews. That sound effect, I bet it could be found on Google. Um,
Yep. It's
oh my
exactly
God.
how some of those people. Yeah.
Oh, I
You
can
could.
do my own sound. Yeah, I could
I
I
was
could
gonna say you could
I could
it pretty
record it
good.
myself. Oh gosh. Well, let's see now. There was oh, I read an interview. I went on the internet and found an interview of you, and I found a couple of quotes or some information about you being a private investigator. So you were how old when you got your private investigator's license?
52.
52. Seems just like yesterday, only it wasn't.
Yeah, only it isn't.
Only it isn't.
I saw something the other day, and it said, it was 1975 and now it's 2025. What happened to those 50 years?
I know.
And that's what I say to myself. Where did the 50 years go? Where was I?
You know, I, I've got a couple of people that call me friends. They'll say, "What you been up to? What you doing?" And I go, "Today, right this minute," because I have so much going on. I have so many things that I do. The days just pass. I mean, they just pass. And I go, "Wait a minute, that's been a whole week." And
I know,
I
every time I turn around, it's trash day again. And I thought, where did this past week go?
yeah, I can totally understand that. So you have been since you were so that's what 33 years now.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 84 in July.
Oh my gosh. You know what that you are 1 month younger than my mother.
Oh,
1
she must be
month.
a wonderful woman.
Well, you know what they say.
Yeah.
The nut
Yes.
don't fall far from the tree. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
um, but you mostly have been working for law firms, although you have done some surveillance before for some things. But
Oh, yeah.
explain about the law firm situation. I mean, what is it? You just didn't sit behind a computer or tell me how that happened.
Oh, well, now there's more computer work, but 30 years ago, no, uh, and I'll tell you what, computers have killed work for me, because what would happen is a law firm would be, say, for instance, engaged in or involved in a lawsuit, and it didn't matter whether they were plaintiff or defendant. They would have me go out and picking up court documents on the opposing party, and they would have me going all over the place to get them. Now what happened is they can get them themselves off the internet, so they don't need me running around. But yeah, I used to do a lot of surveillance work, and stopped doing it about 15 years ago, because it is so grueling. It is such hard work to sit for hours and hours, and then invariably somebody will take off, and you finally follow them, and if you lose them, which I always worked with a partner, which we tried very hard not to do, because that makes the client very upset if they paid you to sit for 5 or 6 hours, and then you lose them in the first 10 minutes when they start moving. But we were very successful. I have a friend who's another investigator, and we probably worked together for 15 years or so. So we knew what the other person was going to do during a surveillance. And I would say that we had more than a 90% success rate with surveillance work. A lot of times it would be like workers' comp, that people would pretend to be hurt, and we would go and film them not being hurt.
Right.
Doing things they shouldn't do. And like, for instance, I can think of one that so appalled me. It had to do with a Cleveland police officer who I think at the time was 26. And he, 3 years earlier, so he was a really new cop then, he was sitting in his car doing notes or something, and got rear-ended, and claimed that he was 100% disabled. And we got him on videotape playing basketball, and we got him on videotape riding his 600-pound motorcycle.
Okay.
But he was going to be on disability for the rest of his life,
right?
And collect it. And I said, I said to the lawyer, I said, shouldn't you be showing this to the police, because they have their own pension fund? He said, well, that's not our concern. And I thought, okay, not my concern then either. We did our job for the lawyer.
Yeah.
It
just shows you that there's people everywhere who have that deep state, not deep state, a bureaucratic mindset of being owed.
I'm going to get mine. I don't care about you, but I'm going to get mine. And it's really sickening. I really hate it.
Right. Well, there was another quote that said, let me see if I can find it. Something about, that you'd gotten fired several times because you had a big mouth.
Oh, several times. I have a whole chapter in my book about getting fired. I mean, I got fired over and over and over again. Yeah, I can't stand liars. I can't stand people who try to take credit for other people's work. And I just had a tendency to speak out about things, and it didn't help. But I'll tell you what, I just, I had a house full of kids, so I just always went on and got another job. But I usually had 2 jobs, and I would either have one during the day, and then I worked for the Ohio's largest newspaper as a stringer at night, going to council meetings, or I was in school during the day and working at night. So there was no grass growing under my feet. And that included, driving kids back and forth, because by then we had moved out to the country, and and I did it on purpose, because I didn't want my kids to be able to walk anywhere and get into trouble. So I always knew where they were and what they were up to.
And that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, it was a great thing. I'll tell you what, I never had, and this people are astonished. I never had trouble with the police, with drugs or alcohol with any of my kids.
Oh.
And they have all become successful adults. Some of them started their own companies and have done really well. And I have no complaints. My only complaint is one of the 7 is a liberal. And unfortunately, that has affected our relationship because she has acute Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh.
But what are you going to do? I mean,
there's nothing you can do. There's
no,
nothing you can do about it at all.
No, and I'm not trying. And unfortunately, it's the same thing with one of my nieces and my own sister. Don't talk to them anymore. It's just I can't. I could get along with people, but when you have somebody who then under their breath says something just loud enough for you to hear it, that has nothing to do with the conversation, they're crazy. I mean, I'm sorry, they're crazy.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that don't have a single fact to back up anything they say either, because they hear the 6 o'clock news and believe it.
Yes, they do. There was did you see that, talking about working so much and not letting grass grow under your feet? Did you see it's been going around on Twitter and Facebook, I think, a young fella who's working at a Starbucks who is complaining that he had to work a whole 8.5 hours one day.
You're kidding.
And that there were so many customers and they only had 13 people working. It just wasn't enough. And he was teary-eyed.
Did you see that Starbucks now has dropped out of first place because people got tired of waiting so long for their orders? Yeah. Now McDonald's is now, and they got tired of the high prices. Yeah, I can easily see that.
Yeah.
Except, you know what? I have grandchildren. I have great grandchildren, but I have grandchildren, and they are all hard workers, and they're in that age group where allegedly nobody wants to work, but they were not raised by helicopter parents either.
Right.
My kids, I was hard on my kids. I had to be. It was 7 against 1.
Yeah.
So I was very strict with my kids, and they have done a great job raising their kids, and their kids are all hard workers, and like working.
Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
Yep.
There was another quote in this article that I read that it says Susan emphasizes that she doesn't lead anyone when you're interviewing them.
No.
In an investigation. I ask questions and let people tell me what the truth is. Right. More often than not, it will come out if you just ask the right questions and then listen to the answers. Because don't you find that the answers often will, even if they don't know it, provide a clue so that you may even know what to ask next?
Oh yeah, you don't. I have been very successful with interviews. First of all, it's much easier to be an investigator if you're a woman. We're non-threatening. Mm-hmm. Most men who are investigators were formerly law enforcement in some capacity, and they never lose that I'm in charge kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Now women go in real low and slow, and well, the smart ones do. And it's just like I just finished doing, I think, a dozen, 13 or so interviews. You don't go in with a whole list of questions you're going to ask, because what you want to do is you want to go in and make people forget why you're there. You want to, like, one of the things I did, and it's just part of the job. I had a really good ability of going into, say, I would go to a woman's house. I want to interview her. I do not call and say I'm coming, because I don't want them to give them a chance to say no. I don't want them to make plans and then not be there when I get there, because sometimes I was going long distances. So I would
Right.
just show up. And it's like when they see you, all of a sudden they're a little more relaxed. I always had the ability to walk into somebody's house because they would always invite you in, because most people really try very hard to be nice and polite and helpful. And when I would tell them I was there, what I was there for, they would invite me in. And I would look around, and within a half a minute, I would be able to tell what their interests were, whether they had, a hobby, a bunch of things, or family pictures, and whatever it was, I would immediately jump on that and say, "Oh, you collect those too? Oh, so do I. How long you been doing?" And it was a total lie, but it was a way to make people like me, because I needed them to like me, to talk to me. And I mean, I wasn't doing anything that was horrible. I was just exaggerating the truth. I mean, but if they had pictures of grandchildren, I would tell them, "Oh yeah, I have grandchildren too." And then you have 2 or 3 questions that you want to ask, but you don't start there. You start with talking about, how do you like the neighborhood, and how long have you lived here, and all that kind of thing. And then then eventually you work yourself up to where you're asking them the questions that you really want to know, and they will be honest with you, because by that time they forget why you're there.
Yeah. Well,
It's a great job. It's a great job. I mean, when it's not a horrible case. When it's a horrible
sure.
case, it's not a great job.
Nothing's good. Yeah.
No.
I'm I am I'm a smart aleck.
Welcome to the club.
I can get quite snarky, and I can come back at somebody hard. But what I found is that that only works on TV when you're playing a part. In real life, it doesn't work. So a lot of times I hold back when I feel like snarky needed to come out, or smart alecky, or whatever. I hold back.
Oh yeah.
And I often just kind of look at them and go, huh, wow. And I put on my heaviest Southern accent that I can put
I
on.
was just going to say, you're from the South. Of course, that's what
one uses one's strengths.
That's exactly.
And it really works with men especially, but women don't know what to do with it sometimes, because they feel like something's not right, but they don't know what it is. I should hate this woman, but oh.
But yeah, but listen to that wonderful accent she's got.
I know.
No, Southern women are noted to be really tough, but they come across with, well, isn't that nice? And you know that they don't mean that.
Oh, that's so precious.
Yeah, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana.
Oh, isn't he awesome?
He is. You know what? He's the only politician I trust. And he's always doing, well, isn't that precious? And it makes me laugh, because he's just shredding somebody while he's saying it.
Well, in the last few years, since my divorce, I started going out dancing. A friend of mine says, you need to go out dancing. Well, you meet some chuckleheads there, let me tell you. And they get a little alcohol in them, and next thing you know, they are, they think they're the best dancer in the world, and all this stuff. And people have always said things to me in person that they would never say to anybody else. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're very insulting things, very nasty things, but they don't know it. And they can't understand why I'm not just jumping all over that which has been offered, if you get my drift.
Yeah. I get your drift.
Yes, I know you get my drift. But I've had other women stand around watching what's happening between me and say this a man or something, so many times where they say these things that are just horrible, and I just go, oh, that's so precious. Listen, could you do me a favor and just don't ever ask me to dance again, okay?
See what I
And the
mean?
man
That's what
goes
I mean.
and walks away, and the women go, I would have slapped his face. I said, yeah, it wouldn't have worked because he wouldn't have remembered it
Oh
anyway.
no,
You know.
what you did was way more painful.
What? Huh? Anyway, it was so
Yeah.
funny. Well, listen, I've got your book, and I bought it, so
Oh, thank you.
um, but I like to. One of the things that I want to talk about. I've been wanting to write a new book, but I haven't quite figured out the the approach. I want to write about the, the spirituality of people in their lives, inside their lives. And
Uh,
I read a particular paragraph in your epilogue. It says, I have faith in God, although I no longer believe in organized religion. For
right.
those who do, carry on. I am spiritual, although I lack the grace that many have. I am grateful for a life I never dreamed I would enjoy. My siblings and I started below gutter level. We learned what it takes to be good parents, or at least to try as hard as we could. And I had learned some other important lessons along the way. I found that to be a very powerful paragraph, and it told me a lot about you.
Oh, thank you.
And I think you organized religion. Okay, there's nothing wrong with being organized, but um, organized religion has, to me, has forgotten its place. Its
Yep.
place is not to force you, but to invite you. And I I I grew up very rough also, and so as a child, and I don't know if you had these thoughts, but as a child, I I knew there was something bigger than me. I did not know what it was called. I didn't even know it was called God.
Yeah.
We then my mother got interested in the Bible and was studying it and became a Christian, and that's a whole nother story that I won't even get into. Uh, and it's not that she didn't believe what she believed, she did, but it really change her as a person? No. And that was her journey and that's her walk. But I kept feeling like that I wish I could get to know God. And I would work very hard and diligently at it. I studied the Bible and I talked to people and we had conversations and I tried to raise my children in that fashion and that sort of thing. But there came a point where, as hard as I was trying, I never could get to know God. I could never feel His love. And after much prayer, I found out that what the problem was not God and it wasn't me. It was this center level of middle management of spiritual life.
Oh, that's perfect.
and
That's perfect.
and the middle management was had so many rules that the spirit of the Bible was lost. So I'm just wondering, what kind of journey have you had in your spiritual life?
Well, I'll tell you, I was raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go to Catholic school, but I did go to catechism and all that till I was about 13. And it, it really had no impact on me other than the fact that I knew I had to go to these classes on Sunday. And but I had, when as my kids were born, I had them all baptized Catholic. I started out with the oldest one going to Catholic school and soon took her out of there. I think she went maybe for not even a year. I don't remember. But what turned me off about it was that she was in a class of 40 kids. And I looked at her paper one day and it said, 6'3" in the corner. And I said, Karen, what is 6'3"? She said, oh, that's my seat number. And I said, why isn't your name on the paper? She said, well, that's how they know who we are. And I thought, no, this is not going to work.
Oh.
Yeah, I said, nope.
Oh.
Yeah, isn't that stunning? So I put her in the public school, which was just down the street from us, and 4 blocks down, and where all my kids could eventually walk. The Catholic school was farther away, and she had to cross a busy street. But what really turned me against the church, and for years, I mean, even now, I admit I do not go to any church unless it's for a wedding or a funeral. I just don't do it. But what turned me against it was when my husband got killed. All right, I was 30. Now I'm 30. I'm a very vulnerable 30. I had worked various jobs and babysat and things until I got married. Then I started having my children. There's only 9 years difference from the first to the last. And so
woman,
yeah,
Lordy.
When my husband died, he was 37. My oldest was 10. My youngest was 14 months. And I had no money and no education and no help from the family. And I was in trouble. Well, I went to the Catholic Church and wanted to have a mass for him. And this pastor, who was known to be just a rotten guy, no, he was divorced. So no, but he had never been married in the church. I mean, he had been married in a civil ceremony and was divorced. And the priest said, no, he can't have a mass. And I was just sick about it, because my kids needed some kind of closure. Right. And finally he decided, he said, well, we can have one in a side altar, but only the immediate family can come. And I'll tell you, well, I won't tell you what I thought in my head, but you could probably figure out what I thought. Yeah. And I was done with the church then. And I never went back. But and for several years after my husband died, I mean, it was he left a huge rubbish company. Oh, that's the name of the book, The Rubbish Hauler's Wife. Right. He had the third largest rubbish hauling company in the city of Cleveland. The trouble is, he died without a will. So everything went into probate. Oh. And those lawyers, and I don't respect lawyers, I work for them. It doesn't mean I respect them. They kept his estate in probate for 7.5 years, taking money the entire time, when I was scuffling to feed my kids pancakes for dinner. I just was so contemptuous of them. And at one point they had 9 lawyers involved. And I tried to figure out over that period of time, and this was the early 70s, keep in mind, that these lawyers got at least $130,000, at least, to be collectively. And it's like, I was just struggling to try and figure out how, fortunately we had bought a duplex, so the other half of the house was paying most of the mortgage. But I mean, I didn't know what to go or what to do, where to turn. It was a horrible situation. It was my poor kids. My heart just broke for them. And I thought God had left me. I thought he had completely deserted me. Didn't understand why. And I thought, well, it's because you never put any faith in him. You never believed. So now this is what you're getting back, because you didn't believe. And all of a sudden, and I don't know what it was that did it, I started thinking, I thought, you know what? You should not be able to be doing this. You should not be able to figure out how to make ends meet. You have very little money coming in from anywhere, and yet everything is being taken care of. Everything the kids need, you're finding a way to get for them. And then it dawned on me that God was the one that was helping me all this time when I had no idea, when I thought nobody was helping me. And that completely changed my life. I we started in a position, me with 7 little kids. Most women in that position end up on welfare or in a horrible situation. We didn't. I mean, my kids all grew up to be really good people. They're good people. They've done a good job with their kids. They work, they vote, they pay their taxes. Um, I live a very comfortable life in a very little house that I love out in the country, and it should never I should never have ended up this well. And it's only through the help of God that made it possible.
Well, see, I totally know where you're coming from because with the life that I had growing up, it was usually me jumping in the middle between my stepfather, who was trying to kill my mother or
Oh my God.
torture her or beating on my siblings or whatever, and getting his attention, you see,
Yeah.
and next thing, and letting them get away while I would have these deep conversations with him. Um, and I grew up as a lot of children, the eldest child of where there's a consistent long-term abuse. I grew up thinking that
Was
all
the
of this,
cause.
no, that I was the solution.
Oh,
I was
good.
God. I mean, I was powerful. I was
Oh,
extremely powerful. I could handle it all, you see.
yeah.
I didn't need anything else. Then, of course, there came a point where I said, okay, I may not need God, but he obviously needs me.
Yeah.
So he's for justice, I'm for justice, but and while I dedicated my life to him, um, I didn't even understand what that meant. I really didn't. I I thought it meant doing things, handling things, making it all better so that God would have less to worry about. Now, if that just isn't cockeyed, I don't know what is. But uh, long story short, I got divorced after 32 years of marriage, and
Oh, wow.
I know, but it was really what was for the best for me and for him, although he would never recognize that. But but the thing is that there came a point when, because I'm a writer, I've always been a writer, I'll always be a writer. I've got words for blood, So if I don't have words, coming out of my fingertips, then I'm dead.
Yeah.
But what happened was is that I started thinking, how did I get to this? How did I get to be 50? Well, I was 52 when I divorced, 53 when 55 when I started thinking about it. I said, how did I get to be 55 years old? What in my life got me to this place, living in a small condo outside of Atlanta, by myself?
Yeah.
My children were grown. I had grandchildren. They were coming along just fine with their parents. Um, what, how did I get here? And I really couldn't say. So
Yeah.
I started writing. I pulled a string. The closest, nearest thing that happened to me, which would have been the divorce. And I just kept pulling that string, and the string was connected to, and I went all the way back to my earliest memory when I was 15 months old. And I wrote these as little vignettes, and then I put them all in not alphabetical, chronological order.
Yeah.
And you want to know what I found out when I read all of these in chronological order?
Mm-mm.
I found out that while I thought I was doing God a favor and handling his business for him, that in fact he'd been looking after me since before I even knew he existed.
Yep.
And this
Yep.
was huge, huge.
Yep.
And I found the exact same thing. How is it that I'm here and I worry? How am I going to make money? How am I going to do that? And somehow
It always
it
appears.
always appears.
I know.
It's amazing.
I people say, how did you do it? And I have no idea. I have no idea.
And I don't either. So what happened to me, I was about 57 and I was going through one of my, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to, and suddenly, it was like a voice inside my head spoke and said, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. And I went, well, I know that scripture. Have I not read it to other people? Of course I have. When they were in the middle of whatever, but did I ever believe it? No. What does that mean? How does that mean? So I started thinking deeply on that and that sort of thing. And next thing you know, I realized all my worrying was not making anything better.
Nope.
Not a thing.
Nope.
And when left in God's hands, what does that mean? I don't know. All I know is that it's in his hands. And I recognize that now.
Everything is, even the painful stuff. And,
exactly.
And that's the hardest part for people to realize is, but the pain doesn't last forever, no matter what it is.
And don't you find, I mean, I don't know if you do or not, but I do, that you go through this thing, whatever it is.
Yep.
And you wonder, how am I going to survive? And you do. And suddenly you realize that you were being taught a lesson about how to make yourself, something in you, better that you would never have seen before. That's been my experience. Has it been yours?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
This might be one of the things that changed me, that I finally recognized that God was on my side. And this is kind of an odd story. One winter, and it was after my husband had died. It might have been the same winter. We lived in this big old house in Cleveland Heights, and it had windows with the big, it had the molding out in front over the porch. And all of a sudden a cat appeared sitting on, a full grown cat was sitting on this, looking in the window. And of course the kids wanted to bring it in. And I'm saying, no, we're not bringing any cats in here. And it was really cold that winter. I mean, it was like from the zeros to the tens. And they said, oh, but it's going to be so cold. And I said, no. And what can we feed it? And I said, all right, you can put, not knowing then that cats don't drink milk. I said, okay, you can put a bowl of milk out there. Well, the milk froze in about 15 minutes.
Oh.
And I said, I can't do. I said, all right, you can put that cat in the basement for a couple of days till the weather gets warmer, then you're putting it outside. And they said, okay, all right, okay. Well, so they put the cat in the basement, and every time I went down the basement, I had to open the basement door to go down to do the laundry. It was like that cat was sitting at the top steps and knew the layout of the house, because he would run to the steps and go all the way to the third floor. And I would have to go up there, and I'd be swearing to myself. I'd get the cat, I'd carry him down, I'd put him in the basin. This happened, probably one day, half a dozen times, at least 4. And I thought, I just give. Well, what would happen after that is every night I would put the kids to bed, and they'd all be in bed by 8:30, because they were little. And that cat, and I would sit on the couch and I would cry because I didn't know what to do. I was 30 years old. I had nowhere to turn. I had no idea what to do. And this cat would come and rub his head against my leg. And it was so comforting to me. It's like somebody cares, somebody understands what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing every night. I mean, I would never cry in front of my kids because I didn't want them to be afraid or to worry. I kept telling them everything's going to be just the same. It's just your father won't be here, but everything's going to be exactly the same. And knowing I'm lying to them because I'm knowing I don't have any money. And here comes this cat every night. And this cat, as soon as I would sit on the couch, the cat would come and sit down right next to me and rub his head against my leg. And it was like, I think God sent this cat, I think, to comfort me. And that's where it started to change.
Yeah.
And I mean, every day, now every day I wake up and I thank God when I'm able to get out of bed and walk around.
Yeah.
It's the last thing I think of at night and the first thing I think of in the morning.
Around the world, I started feeling this back 20 years ago, that around the world there's a huge spiritual awakening.
I agree.
And people are leaving organized religion because it's they're awakening spiritually, and they're finding that they've been eating spiritual junk food.
Yes.
And
we all have to find our own path to God. And you can't do that organized.
The thing is, there's nothing wrong with being organized.
No,
but you have to know why you're organized to do what. And they've chosen to organize some things that they have no business in.
Yeah.
They can teach. They can organize missions, whatever they want to do. But when you start putting yourself between the person and God.
Yep. Well,
the gateway, something's not right.
It becomes a social activity rather than church, rather than religion.
Right.
Religion to me is a very private thing. I turn everything over to God. Absolutely everything. The way the country's going. I mean, every night I pray for Donald Trump. I pray for his cabinet, that they'll all be safe, that God will protect them. I pray for the country. 30 years ago, if anybody told me I'd be doing that, I'd tell them, you're crazy. No. But that's where I am now. And I really don't consider myself a religious person. I mean, I'm Catholic, but I haven't.
But what does that even mean?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it means. I mean, I don't know what it means. But all I know is I'm comfortable with God. He's comfortable. We understand each other. I know I'm flawed. And I think he knows it too. But
I just know that for myself. I now feel like I have a connection to God.
Yeah.
And that when I pray, it's not just me doing what somebody else expects me to do, but that it's an actual communication.
Right.
And so I feel like I was led by God through an answer to a series of prayers that just the answer never changed. It was, time to do something else. And when I look back at my entire life, I realize that absolutely everything has led me up to here, and that this is where I need to be for whatever God wants me for. I don't even know what that is. And I don't try to answer that. It's none of my business. If he needs me, he'll put me where he needs me to be.
Exactly.
Whether I know it or not.
Exactly.
And it's just been a very interesting thing. And like I said, that's why that paragraph caught my attention, because I went, she's had a spiritual journey too,
Yep.
that's been quite interesting. Well, Susan, this has been awesome. We have been at this almost an hour. Can you believe
Oh,
it?
you're kidding.
I'm
Are you?
not kidding.
I would never have guessed.
Well, I've got this little timer up here, and I went, we're at 55 minutes almost. So,
Wow.
um, so I want
This
to,
has been really, really nice, Angela.
we're both on Substack, and I think, once a month or something like that, we ought to just do something like this and have a chat,
I,
on whatever.
I'm happy to do it.
Well, I'll shoot you some emails, and we'll kind of start figuring how that's going to go, and
Okay, great.
it would be great. And like I said, I've got this thing I can record and all that and push it out. So
no, that'd be fun. I'm always, I'm like you. I'm never short of words.
I know I talk, and I go, I wake up in the night talking out loud.
You know that I wake myself up at night because I'm talking in my sleep, and I talk so loud I wake myself up. I don't know anybody else that does that, but I do that, and I probably do it at least once every other week.
Well, I've always talked in my sleep, but I've also laughed out loud in my sleep. My husband one time woke me up, and he goes, "Why are you laughing at me?" And I was sound asleep.
I would have said, what did you do?
Well, listen, you just stay right there and hang on for a minute, and I'm gonna close the show out, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Well, everybody, that was Susan Daniels, and y'all heard it. Y'all heard it here first. We're going to try and do something once a month. Just have us a free-form, good old conversation. Who in the heck knows where it's going to go? And I will now say goodbye. And listen, pay attention to that little scrolling banner on the bottom there. It says, thank you for liking and sharing. And would love to know your thoughts, so be sure and comment. And let's see what else it says. Be sure to subscribe. And don't forget to subscribe to Susan Daniels' Substack also.